beautiful people, what's going on? Welcome back to another weekly Daily Wednesdays where we sit back, relax, take that midweek break, talk about some of the fun things going on in the world of Linux and open source. I'm Ben, joined by Joe Bryant. Everybody over here in chat, watching us live on YouTube at LWDW, 3 p.m. Eastern. If you get a chance, pop in and tell us what your favorite soup is. That's how we know you were listening to the podcast. A lot to talk about this week in the world of penguins. Firefox has finally pulled the plug on 32-bit support. Got to pour one out for that. An XDA writer who recently got into Linux has discovered that Linux might not be the Bogeyman. And,
yeah.
You know, Raspberry Pi, they've gotten into the storage game, the storage business. They get a new SSD out. That's a lot bigger than the previous one. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about lossless audio over the network using magic internet waves, kind of in the house or maybe like in a stage show, and how you'd want to get that set up because somebody else has taken a crack at it. And I got some thoughts and opinions, maybe a little bit of critique. But before we hop into everything, we play a little bit of catch up, see what's going on. Jill, you had a weekend of No Man's Skis.
Yes, I did. So I've been having lots of fun exploring new worlds and befriending amazing creatures in the game No Man's Sky. And I posted some of my favorite pics in our Discord. And, you know, No Man's Sky I'm rediscovering again. I hadn't played it in a while, so I was excited to revisit this beautiful game again. It's got so much more graphic detail and is more refined, and the controls are so much better and they're faster and more fluid now. It used to be, you know, even on the menus, you had to hold the mouse button down for quite a while before before it would, you know, load a scene or whatever. And now that is much more speeded up. So I was so happy to see that. There was No Man's Sky just had a major Voyagers update that lets you build a big ship and discover the universe with a large crew. But I haven't done that yet because I'm still having fun exploring the almost 10-year-old procedural universe alone in my little spaceship. So I don't even know if I'll ever get around to playing co-op on that game.
You actually getting around to playing a game would be the shock. We're like, oh, yeah, I can just walk off and go do stuff. That's what Jill's going to do. There's nothing wrong with it. Exploration, rock and roll. It's good. You know, it's basically at the point of what they were promising when they launched that game like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
It's getting there, man. So if that's your jam, go play some No Man's Sky. People seem to be like, that's what was that latest Bethesda game they pushed out? The Space Explorer. I'm blanking.
I'm blanking too.
It went
Anyways, yeah, No Man's Sky are giving those games a lot of challenge because they brought it. They brought the co-op.
They got there eventually.
Yeah.
So Starfield. Thank you, Doc.
Starfield, that's it.
There
and that was a fun game.
That legendary, memorable game that I couldn't remember to save my life. Why? Because it's not Elder Scrolls. It's not the new one, Bethesda, and that's really all anyone's waiting on from you. So let's see what is going on over here. I have learned, my little project for like the last week was learning how to deploy a Mastodon instance. I've been curious about that, been meaning to do that, set up one for interfacing Linux, and I've been putting it off. I'm like, that's a lot to get into. Turns out, breeze, piece of cake.
It's a lot easier now, huh?
Not a problem. Got that deployed. What I ran into was, it was, you know, just learning about the stuff like, because like once you deploy like a private Mastodon thing, because I also want to tie it in with ActivityPub for interfacing Linux. I'm learning a lot about this stuff right now. You know, I'm trying to learn the stack so I can be conversational all the way down to the bottom. And yeah, setting up like relays and things like that and figuring out what the Elasticsearch is and how all the stuff works on the back end and how it's doing the thumbnail generation, who it federates with. That's been kind of fascinating. Like moving accounts back and forwards, watching that. If you get an alert from me, it's because like I moved my Venn account over to interfacing Linux. I was like, how does this work? And you got to set up a relay, but you can move them back too. So it's not like, you know, if you go from one instance to another instance, you can go back to the other. and bounce around. So just a lot of stuff to play with. Having a good time with that. Played a little bit of Silksong, put a minute or two into it. I opened it.
And you said it's harder this time around. It's even harder than the first one.
Man, you better be. I'm glad I spent like 2 weeks on and off before going into Silksong and warming up on Hollow Knight, because it is a way more challenging game. There is exploration. I was telling Jill in the pre-show. Imagine, like running around in like No Man's Sky or Genshin and like that. But everything is constantly trying to kill you the entire time, which is very distracting because it's a beautiful game, but it's so massive, so big. I'll get there. I've definitely ran into a couple of bosses that made me angry, that I had to get up and like walk and be like, okay, I just got to put this down and come back to it. Well done. It's a $20 game. I don't have any hatred towards it, and there's already some mods out. If you don't like the difficulty, you can dial it down.
Yeah, I was just going to say that you should put it in easy mode.
I can't do that, man. I'll probably talk more about it Saturday, but I'll tell you about the latest patch update and how that affected me personally this week. But
okay, cool.
That's about that. Let's go ahead and hop into it for this week, starting with Mozilla and Firefox doing something that, I think they announced this well over a year ago, Jill.
Yeah, they did, but now it's been confirmed, and it's coming sooner than later. So yeah, this is sad news, because I use the open source web browser Firefox on my old 32-bit x86 computers to browse the internet. Mozilla is ending support for 32-bit x86 Linux with Firefox version 145. Dun dun dun. We saw this coming. The decision was made because most Linux distributions no longer widely support 32-bit systems, and Mozilla previously continued support to help users extend the life of their hardware, but now needs to focus development and time on modern versions of Firefox. So that does make sense, especially since they have a smaller crew now. So that's very understandable. And for users unable to transition to a 64-bit operating system, Firefox Extended Support release, or the ESR release 140, will be available with 32-bit builds until at least September 2026. So that was good to hear. So they're giving you a little longer to transition. If what this kind of affects is those systems like at NASA that are in, they want to maybe update their web browser, but they got to keep the old kernel on there.
Right. And we're talking, they have numbers for this. This isn't just a rug pull. With Firefox users with telemetry enabled, there are 2.6% of that user base using 32-bit Firefox on a 32-bit Windows. While, strangely, there were 66.4% using 32-bit Firefox on 64-bit Windows.
Yeah,
which just means they clicked on the wrong thing.
They clicked on the wrong one, yeah.
They've done that. I don't think I've ever noticed. I do that every now and then, especially like when I'm playing around with the ARM stuff, because I'll download the wrong ARM build and it'll be like, 32-bit instead of 60. I'm like, well, I want to run. I'm like, oh, right. But you can run the 32-bit on 64, so you don't run into that issue.
Yeah.
Is it really going to affect anybody? Nah. You're right.
Most people know.
Yeah. This has been very well telegraphed. So, end of an era. 32-bit's been gone for a long time, and it's not going to be making a comeback. All right.
Hey, we got to give them compliments for keeping it maintained for this long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they did it, and it'll be around. I'm sure you can always use no, I'm not. I was going to tell you to use there's a couple of text-based browsing, but those are probably all 64-bit too. 32-bit is for retro enthusiasts in 2025. Now, installing Linux, installing an operating system is something I've talked about on the show more than once. And I always like to focus on the type of person who would install an operating system, because like that's the big deal, right? You're like, I'm going to take my system and I'm going to wipe it and put something else, or I'm going to try to put something else next to it and not mess anything up. That can be terrifying. Yeah. It can be spooky, right?
Yep.
Well, that's exactly what Joe did over on XDA. About 2 months ago, he decided, hey man, I'm going to try this Linux thing out. Windows is getting on my nerves. And he's back with a little bit of an update. After switching to Linux, I finally stopped believing the myth that intimidated me. And he walks through a couple of things. So he's about 2 months in, and just looking back, he starts with like number one. You don't need to use the terminal all the time or at all. Then you read it, unless you do. Because yeah, you're going to have to crack a terminal open. And it's true, day-to-day tasks, they don't require the use of a terminal, everybody. And like Joe admits, he still has to open one. In this article, he's like, well, I had to install Flatpak, set up Flatpak on Arch. Of course he did. So be prepared for that. And for new Linux users, being comfortable with terminal equals just blindly copying and pasting stuff that you find on the internet. So it's not really an issue in the first place. So let's not worry about it. Now, unless you plan on reinstalling everything you break in the system, it is and forever will be necessary to learn a little bit of terminal foo, though, you know, because that's where you're going to be fixing stuff. You're not going to be able to click your way out of the problem that you created, because, you know, Linux rarely, if ever, breaks itself. Now, number two, apps. Where are we at on apps? Apps are pretty good on Linux.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that, though. And it's not really the apps that have been showing up lately. No, it's just the way things have shifted in the last, let's just say decade for this, because most everything I do and you do, we all do on the internet, it's going to be running in a browser. It's going to be Electron. If it's not, it's going to be a browser disguised as an application. And I've been saying this for a long time. 99% of you have never opened Photoshop in your life, so I don't even want to hear about it. Okay? Don't come at me with the but what about Photoshop? It's like, you don't even know what that looks like. Okay? Now, in 2025, we got Steam, we got Proton, so gaming's covered. Everything just works. Office, you're using Google Docs, or you're using Microsoft, again, in the browser. Not worried about it. Now, number three is still true and will always be. Dun, 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 a learning curve. Switching to any operating system, man, if you go into a Mac or in some dark timeline, if it was me trying to use Windows 11, or better yet, here's a great example. Here's a very real example. Me playing around with BSD for the first time in over a decade. It's just switching to a different OS. There's always going to be that learning curve. So it's not, is there a learning curve? It's like, how steep is it? But yeah, it's something you got to look out for. And it depends on what you're trying to do. Every distribution is going to have a different way of doing things. You want to lock in. It's always a good bit of advice when you're starting out to get your feet under you, your little penguin flappy feet, to go with a very popular distribution, be it Ubuntu, be it Arch. You know, stay away from the edge case ones, the new flavor of the, you know, month or the year. Stick with those, you know, Fedora. Why? Because they have a huge knowledge base. When you need to do something, you're going to be able to find it. And I think my big takeaway from this is, you know, me personally, I don't want you or Joe to use Linux. I never have. Not at all. A weird thing to say, isn't it? Kind of is. You know, but I found out, you know, the 30 years I've been playing around with this operating system, trying to sell Linux like a door-to-door salesman is a fool's errand. And there's still some of you out there doing it. You're knocking on doors. You're knocking on the virtual doors. And have you heard about Linux? Could I get you to Linux at Linux every now and then? Because you or Joe here have to want to switch in the first place. And once you've made up your mind, that's when people like me in the community should be showing up to help you out, to give you a hand. Also, when you come at it like that, instead of trying to convince somebody, to convert them. I do not like the word like I converted them over to Linux or I switched them over to Linux. And you talked them into it, did you? And you're like, I absolutely did. Then you're going to get the response of that 2 o'clock text message. And I mean 2 a.m., not p.m. saying, you talked me into installing this. I need some help with this right now. So you wait on the person to come to you. You find the person who's like, man, I'm fed up with Windows. I'm fed up with Mac. I'm fed up with BSD. I can't stand AIX for another minute. Can you help me out? Then you go, absolutely. Let me help you out and let me get you started. But don't start drilling on people. And I'm like, hey man, you're like, what are your thoughts on like running this operating system? That's a good place to do it, but you don't need to sell it. You don't need to sell it because no matter how hard you sell it, you're just wasting your breath until that person's like, I got to try something different. Then show up and be that person. What do you think, Zon? Pretty good article, though. I think this is fair after like 2 months in, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I thought this was a wonderful article, Joe. It's, very comforting and easy to understand for new users wanting to try Linux and your experiences. And as Ven and I have said many times before, you have to spend the time to learn Linux just like you did with Windows back in the day. So you're learning a new operating system. So be patient with your new Linux adventure and enjoy the process of tinkering and being curious. And don't worry about making mistakes because you will learn from them and may even discover that Linux is a perfect fit for you. So there's, you got to be ready to make the plunge.
You got to have your mind made up. You got to be fed up. You got to be coercion.
Yeah.
Coercion is a lost art in 2025. People want to shout other people into doing what they want them to do. You got to talk somebody into it. Be like, hey man, it's pretty cool. I don't have that particular problem. Maybe you should try this. And it's a huge ask. It's a huge ask. Even among your, tech enthusiast friends that are like tied into the Windows or Mac OS ecosystem. They like, they're just like you. They like things the way they are, like how you get everything set up. Like I would go mad. Like I instantaneously start getting hangry when I start using, I don't know if I have Windows 11. I have Windows 10 installed on one of my business PCs to update the firmware for one of these audio interfaces. And I've said it before. Like I have to Google things in order to figure out how to, like, how do I, because I vaguely remembered how to get to like the system manager in Windows 2000. I didn't know I could not figure that out on my own. In Windows 10, I had to look at it. I'm like, oh, that's how, because they do a very good job. Like, and it's like, no, I need to get to the guts of this. Not your over. I don't need a wizard. I don't need help. Yeah, it goes both ways. And it doesn't matter if it's Linux or something else. So yeah, good on that. There'll be a link in the show notes to everything we talk about. Go check it out. Read it for yourself. Give it some peepers on the web zone. Now, Raspberry Pi's getting, what do you think the next thing Raspberry Pi should get into? They're doing storage now. They got SSDs. Do you think they should get into like, I don't know, kitchen appliances? Would you buy a Raspberry Pi toaster?
No. I mean, we have monitors, we've got mice, we got keyboards, we've got all the accessories. I mean, they have really created the whole ecosystem just like Eben Upton promised. So they're doing exactly what they said. They're making a whole Raspberry Pi universe.
They're taking a look at it. They're like, man, we really like the way Apple locked the stuff in.
Yeah. So yeah, the Raspberry Pi Foundation has just launched a new official 1 terabyte M.2 SSD priced at $70 for the Raspberry Pi 5. This expands their existing lineup they released in October of last year, which me and Ven talked about, which includes a 256 gigabyte SSD for $30 and a 512 gigabyte SSD for $45. This is in line in pricing with the 1 terabyte M.2 SSDs for the Raspberry Pi 5 that can be found on Amazon. But you have the insurance that it will work great with the Raspberry Pi 5 because it's an official product. Yay, good on you, Raspberry Pi. The SSD is PCIe Gen 3 compliant and has faster read performance than the previous models. and is rated for 90,000 input-output operations per second for both 4 kilobits, random neat reads and writes, which is really impressive for a little tiny SSD. And an M.2 adapter hat is required to connect the SSD to the Raspberry Pi 5, but an official one can be purchased for as low as $13.95 from PiShop.us. Yeah, I just checked that. And you can pick up a new 1 terabyte SSD right now from all the official Raspberry Pi sellers. They are available. So this was really great news. That's awesome.
Why would you get one from Raspberry Pi? Now, what reason would you ever, like with the SD cards? We definitely talked about that. And I reminded everybody, this is something I talked about a couple of days ago, is when you just need everything for a single board computer, I will recommend a Raspberry Pi. Why? Because I can go to Adafruit. I can go to Adafruit, and even if I don't need a kit, but I can get a Raspberry Pi case, board, hat, SD card.
Yeah.
And I know it's from Raspberry Pi. I know it's going to work. I'm not going to have any fuss with it. It's there and it's done. I get something from, Banana Pi, Orange Pi, Razda, the other companies. Everything else is going to be like from third-party vendors. I'm going to have to track down a case for it or an adapter, and maybe it'll work. NVMe drives better work. Like if you made one, if an NVMe drive doesn't work in your Raspberry Pi 5 hat, you messed up the hat.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say that.
Yes.
I wouldn't use that as a selling point. The thing what a lot of people would like to see is, I saw Dak asking about it in chat. What about some benchmarks? I'm like, it's Raspberry Pi 5, man. They're going to be great. You're not getting like blazing speed on a Pi 5 with an NVMe drive. I don't, it's like a Gen, what is it, like Gen 2 link on the that little ribbon cable. And I'm not poo-pooing it. It's just what it is, man. Like, so they're not going to go, but like whatever the reliability is long-term, reasonable price. The big selling point of this is, it's from Raspberry Pi. You get a problem with it, there'll be a warranty. You don't have to worry about some random Amazon seller or eBay seller or somebody on AliExpress that the shop's just disappeared when it dies in 2 months. You'll be able to get a replacement. And that's very important. Maybe not so much with SSDs, but like definitely SD cards, because you never know what you're getting these days. And at least getting it directly from them. Yeah. So I don't have anything negative to say about them, like locking in that supply chain and being able to verify it came from them, even if they want to add a premium to it, but it doesn't seem like they're going out of their way to like mark this up at all. So good job, everybody over there.
Yeah.
Now let's stick on the Raspberry Pi train. Arthurian dropped this in the show notes, and I thought it was a bit of neat. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to put this in and give it a look. Eric got his hands on a Behringer X-Air XR18. Great little box. It's part audio interface, part remote digital mixer. Really cool. And, it can be controlled with an app, Android, iOS, but he wants to record multi-track and add live custom effects. What he didn't want to do was run a USB cable to connect the XR18 to the stage, going all the way to the back of the venue. So what did he decide? Wi-Fi. And if you want to run Jack over Wi-Fi, that means you're going to be breaking out JackTrip. And that ended up being his solution. Now, turns out it was pretty easy to set up on the Raspberry Pi 5, and it allowed him to connect the I.O. to the front of house to his PC in the rear, behind the audience, where that's going to be. I want you to go read the full write-up on his blog, ericmeyer.com, linked in the show notes. And, this is a cool learning experience and shows you the power and flexibility of Jack. Something I use right here in the studio. Now, Eric, if you happen to be listening, I'm going to tell you about another program called Sonobus, because it does everything JackTrip does, but it also comes as a VST plugin that you can just drop in your DAW and like blow away half of the needed setup for this. And it's available for ARM. Then I'm going to remind everybody about a thing, because I saw reading through this, he's like, man, you don't want to run that long USB cable. I feel you on that. And you're right. You're right. What you need to do is get a Cat 6 to USB adapter. They make those so you can convert your USB to Cat 6, run the link, and convert it back out. But I get that you don't want to use the extenders. Wi-Fi works really well on a vacuum, and that's what you're testing right now. You got an empty venue set up with a stage and, where the audience would be, and you want to be behind the audience or a different room. You don't want to run wires. I get it. I've been there. Completely feel you on that. And your Wi-Fi setup's working real good right now. You got the Wi-Fi hooked up to a repeater on the stage with a Raspberry Pi 5 running JackTrip, and it's sending it back to your DAW in the back. Working great because it's a vacuum. As soon as 10 people get in there with their mobile phones pinging hotspots and sending data back and forwards, something's going to break.
Yeah.
I tell you this from experience. This is one of the things I do as a side project, and it'll just go to poo. But that's something you're going to have to learn for yourself, because I know the first time I was told this, I'm like, no, Wi-Fi's better now. Oh, this is a story that's happened to me. And also with the X18, be prepared to lose that box. It's going to drop off the Wi-Fi network, just like the XR12. That thing will drop off the network at the most inopportune time. So just be prepared for that. It'll disappear. And you're like, where did you go? And we're like, I don't know. And you're just going to have to restart it, man. That's all you can do. I've been dealing with network audio since the days of CobraNet. A couple of years back, local venue, like I ripped out their installation, replaced everything with Dante, upstairs, downstairs, ceiling. The ceiling concert, the roof concert, and all that. I know a little bit about it, so I don't want you to pull your hair out too much chasing the Wi-Fi dragon. This is a great write-up, and I think this is a great setup for people to have around their house. I just want to put like the asterisks there at the end. I'm like, if you got maybe 3 or 4 people, and that's all that's going on, but if you're trying to deploy Wi-Fi in a venue and you've done it at any even small to medium scale, it falls apart. It gets really dodgy, and it's not something you want to be sending multi-track over for recording. And I don't think the XR18 does multi-track recording. It'll do a live stereo mix down to a USB stick. So you don't want those clicks and pops, but it depends on how resilient you can get everything set up. You might be able to pull it off. Prove me wrong. Also, NetJack 2, hardwired, no pipe wire. For production is what I use here in the studio. If you want to play with that, you want some help with it, feel free to get in touch. Pop over to the Interfacing Linux forums. I'm always happy to help people out. I do it all the time, man. And good luck with this. If you get this working, you get it in there and you're like, you were wrong. We did everything. And then I'm going to be like, that is awesome. I love it. Big fan of it. All I can do is share my experiences so far. I think it's pretty cool, Jill. I think it's pretty neat.
Oh, this is so awesome, Eric. And Ven has definitely been doing this a long time, actually, for 15 years here on the podcast, doing audio fiddling and getting things sounding really nice and working really well. So he's a master at that. And Eric is really on an adventure, I think. That's awesome, and I'm looking forward to hearing the results and how it's working. And speaking of Eric, I so enjoyed meeting him and talking to him at the last Southern California Linux Expo here in Los Angeles. That was such a joy meeting him, and he has been the Ubuntu Studio project lead for over 7 years, and his wife revived the wonderful Edubuntu. So it was nice to finally meet him. That was just great. And, me and Ven have talked about this incredible husband and wife team here on LWDW for years, and I'm so happy he's still working so hard on Ubuntu Studio and getting especially those audio bits taken care of. That's really wonderful. And all the graphic stuff and all the wonderful apps. And Ubuntu Studio is actually the main distro I would use to introduce Linux to my graphics and animation students at the college I worked at for 30 years. So this is awesome. And and even though I'm not teaching full time anymore, I do hear from my animation students who are still using Blender, Krita, GIMP, etc. on their original Ubuntu Studio installs. So they're continuing to use that distro, which is wonderful. And it's so nice to see the progress that he's doing in this adventure he's taking, because that's going to all trickle down to Ubuntu Studio.
Planero Live is a different animal, and it's fun. It's a learning experience. Everybody's got their own solution too. I wish you the best for this, man. A little bit jealous. You know, I've been there and done that, and I'm talking like I'm old hat with it, but I love problem solving like that. That's just, you know, it's fun times, man. I'm glad you got something. You got your idea down. So best of luck with everything. That's going to wrap us up for this week, everybody. At LWDW over on YouTube. Come check it out live. Click on the video. Give it a like if you're watching. Hey, yeah, look at that. Shameless self-promotion incoming.
Yeah.
LinuxGameCast.com support tab. You want to become a patron, LibrePay. We even got crypto, man, Bitcoin. You can do that. Get a couple rewards. You get the video version of this, not on YouTube, higher quality audio, video. You get the pre-show, post-show, all tied together in a podcast. And you can come check out all the other stuff I do on Interfacing Linux, where I have a couple of projects. I finally got these graphs fixed, Joe.
No, there you go. Nice.
They broke with the latest update, and I'm really, really glad about my pretty graphs, and they were all jacked up, and it took me quite a while to figure out what broke them, and I finally did. So they are all back and functioning. Good. But yeah, if you're looking for if you happen to be into the creative space, you make, you know, audio, video stuff, you like playing around, single board computers, PC hardware, video software, capture cards, audio, head over there. Check out the forums. Check out some of the reviews. And we were having a discussion about, you remember Prey in 2006? Not the current Prey with little smoke monsters. This was built using the Doom 3 engine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Somebody, like, they've been trying to do an open source engine because, you know, it was using the Doom engine, and like 3 other people have tried to get that working, and another person has made quite a bit of progress. So, and like this was originally on Linux in 2006, thanks to Ryan. He ported it to Linux, and the 2006 GitHub. But you can get in game multiplayer, might even work. So yeah, go check that out. Along with a long ongoing argument about imagine if Linux audio worked, which is always an entertaining read.
Yeah.
Interfacing Linux over on YouTube, working on a new project right now, which is Raspberry Pi related. Strange, I know. I cover a lot of stuff not Raspberry Pi related, but we're coming back around to doing something that has been sitting on my desk. I got roughly a week and a half to get this done before the avalanche starts coming down the mountain, and I got a bunch of stuff coming in at one time. So looking forward to getting that out to everybody. And yeah, that's going to do it. Go download the podcast. We're everywhere, iTunes, you name it, and leave comments on the video if you so dare. That's going to do it for this week. Great hanging out with you. Let's go ahead and pull up the music and get out of here.
Happy bouncy music. We get to thank our advisor, Artherin, on one of the highest Patreon levels. Our executive producers. I just missed reading them. Our Chicago Kicks Mules level, our Sea Monster level. My vision is horrible today. Our Death Notes, Chad, Romero, Martin, Renee. Oh boy.
Got a couple of men this
today.
Week. All right. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. Have some fun. See you then.
Yay!